It's Friday, July 12th. This is an end of the day and end of the week SPY recap. And today, on the last day of the week, we end up with kind of a two-up green bar that has a bit of a shooter tail to it, selling tail at the top. And so after yesterday's, three bar here, that took out the high the previous day and low of the previous day and closed red. You kind of were anticipating you might want to test the bottom there. We were going to see if this weekly chart, which yesterday looked a lot worse than it does now, was going to turn into a shooter bar by the end of the week, which would have, likely projected lower next week. We still might get it, but we're going to have to see price action at this point. And instead, what happened today was price didn't really start lower. Between the pre-market range, between the blue lines, price decided to start up. It was a little below the midpoint of the prior day, but I'll show you in a minute how the 15-minute chart immediately moved higher. And as it turns out, it was just kind of typical broadening action where you get higher in this time frame in the daily chart, higher highs, lower lows, and then you come back through the range to higher highs. We sell off at the end. Maybe we're coming back to lower lows and getting all kinds of broadening action here, which is confusing, in terms of the momentum player is either up or down. So today on the 15-minute chart between the blue lines, after yesterday's move down, we discussed it really wasn't an actionable signal one way or the other. We were just going to see if, this three bar was very similar to other three bars, which was like, here's a three bar near the high. We went lower a little bit. Then we had the actionable signal to the upside, took out that high. Here we had a three bar. We tested lower, paused, then came up and took out the high. Today we get the three bar, and instead of testing lower early, instead price action from the way I look at the pre-market range and the opening price action decided to move higher. So right out of the gates, we were coming back through the range to the upside, and it was technically a buy here on bar number two in terms of just getting above the overnight highs and the first bar high and closing strongly green. And you could have aggressively done that, or I chose to just watch it. After the three bar from yesterday, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. It wasn't really a strong gap up, and even though price action certainly was higher, I wasn't looking to sell right away unless we had a red bar coming down to take out the low of that first bar. I just didn't take advantage of this to the upside. It ended up being a nice, perfect one bar, one push, pause, second push up, took out that high, and then not surprising, after two pushes up, we sell off near the end and get a little bit of a shooter bar here. So that brings us into next week, where all of a sudden are we just making higher highs, lower lows, higher highs, and now with the sell-off at the end starting our lower lows. If we get the lower lows into starting to the week off and get a two down day, then I'm going to anticipate that this weekly chart still might get that two down, and if we get that two down, we have a fair value gap to fill in here, and we'll see how much lower it wants to go. But until this weekly chart gives us any indication that we're going to move lower, your bias is to the upside in general, and you do have some exhaustion risk as you get these days up, and that's why you can have one of these big red race days to the downside. But when you put it all together with the opening price action relative to the pre-market range, it generally, keeps you on the right side of things or gives you opportunities, either way in this environment. But I'm still waiting, for real classic signals where the daily chart aligns with the 15-minute price action. Today, it was definitely, clear indication that we're going up, pause, and then up again in terms of structure. The sell-off, once you hit your target here of the highs, is just not surprising at all. And we see where we go going into, the rest of the month. Let's see, the monthly chart here is still strongly green. So, until this monthly chart, even we're coming to the middle of the month, get some kind of reversal below the open, then we're still biased to the upside. So, we know this, but it's just a matter at some point, this weekly chart, which is just up, 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 and has had there's only 1 week here where we actually had a new low. Everything else has been teasing to go lower, but it hasn't done it. So, it doesn't have to occur after a shooter looking bar or a failure bar. Maybe just a two up green week here with a little tail. By next week, we start a two down week. And all we can do is kind of watch daily price actions to see if that weekly chart fails. So we do have a shooter bar here. If we get anything opening up that starts lower, I kind of expect us to test down here, and that will trigger the two down week. So maybe today, it was a good sell off yesterday that developed near the highs. highs. And even though it didn't follow through today, maybe, today was just a day to kind of come up there, take out some stops again, and maybe we get that sell-off starting right away on Monday. And, again, I'd be aggressively taking it and seeing if we get that 2-down week, which has all these gap areas to fill and everything else. But today, if you were expecting lower, given this, red bar yesterday towards the end of the week, that would probably, likely maybe stay down there and have the weekly chart as a shooter bar. You didn't get it today, but opening price action protected you because it never gave you any kind of sell signal. So we will see what happens, going into next week. Let's see, on the upside, I guess like anything else, you got to start above the midpoint of this bar and start higher, and then see once you test this high, which has had 2 sell-offs already, can you get through there? So, we'll see what happens. But at the moment, I'm almost seeing, now that we've had volatility coming in, I'm almost seeing higher highs, lower lows, higher highs, and this could be an eventual lower low that starts filling in some of these gaps. Again, I'm not necessarily expecting it, but if price action leads that way, I'd be comfortable, trying the downside in this kind of environment. So that was today. The weekly chart still ends up a little bit green. If we can't get above the midpoint of this selling tail, then, we could be testing lower. So I'm going to kind of watch that. You see a green bar, you kind of expect those highs to be tested. But given that we've had 2 tests up here already that have failed, I'm not as confident that, we head up there quickly, but it's possible. I mean, we'll just see where price action goes. Maybe it's just a trend that's getting a little bit volatility, but it's still working higher with swing highs, along the way. So we will find out. But today, again, after the 3 bar from yesterday, we definitely had the reversal back to the upside, and it was, pretty clear price action in terms of 2 pushes up and then selling off, after it reached its target. So we will see what happens next week.